What does Kim Jong-un want out of this?
Kim Jongun probably wants recognition, which the Russians seem happy to give him, just as the Chinese are too. He probably also wants aid, assistance, both with perhaps his weapons and nuclear program, and his space program or his rocket program. And he needs also food aid, I think. That the isolation of the last 3 years, self-imposed because of COVID, has led to severe food shortages in some parts of the country. And probably everybody is living on a much more restricted diet than they were 5 or 10 years ago. So there are lots of things that Kim wants.
And I guess the question: Russia wants weapons, doesn't it?
Right.
Is it as simple as that?
I suspect Russia also wants support, and if you can only get it from North Korea, well, get it from North Korea. I think for Russia, North Korea may be a source of ammunition, maybe a source of rockets, small, short-range rockets, things like that. I'm not sure that there is actually clear evidence that such exchanges have taken might well have done. The North Koreans are not very subtle when it comes to arms deals, so they will sell if they can get rid of them.
I guess,
and they need the money.
And and so is this a sign of weakness for Putin, or is it a sign of a shift in global alliances? Because at one level, Kim Jong-un is a tin pot dictator of a very, very impoverished country, as you've been saying. Is this a sign that he doesn't have many allies anywhere? Or we were talking the other day, Jim, that if you look at G20, there's an awful lot of countries, if you start counting them up around the world, which are not as critical of Russia as you might imagine. China, of course, there's India, there's the African countries. So is he in a weak position, sort of reaching out desperately for North Korea, or is this a sign of a new alliance building that might put him in a position of greater strength?
I think it's probably trending towards the latter, that what Putin, what Russia wants is international support. North Korea has been willing to give that. It's one of the few countries that actually has supported the Russians over Ukraine. It didn't just abstain at the UN, it actually voted against the resolutions. But I think also it's a country that has a large armaments industry. It's probably everything is compatible with what the Russians have. After all, it was the Russians who set up the North Korean army in the first instance. So you can see a symbiosis here that brings the two together. How significant it would be, I don't know. But if Russia is really running short of ammunition and so on, I suppose any source is a good source, even if it's a North Korean one.
Yeah. It's hard to know what's going on in North Korea often, isn't it, because of what a closed country it is. But when you talk about it, it has this nuclear program we hear about. It's got this space rocket program. How close to fruition are any of those things? How plausible is it that North Korea could be a space power, a nuclear power? Because a lot of what we see out of it, as you say, is a very impoverished country. But is it capable in those areas at all? Is it getting close to becoming capable?
It seems to be. It's made huge progress in its nuclear program ever since the agreed framework negotiated in the 1990s was ended by President George W. Bush. North Korea has concentrated on the development of its nuclear program, and it seems it's in parallel with the development of its missile program. It seems now capable not just hitting targets locally, South Korea, Japan, but much, much further afield, including the mainland United States. Now, whether it can do that accurately is a different question, but it certainly appears to have the rockets that could do that. So it has made huge progress there. Its conventional army is probably still huge, but rather decrepit. And when I was in North Korea, you rarely saw any evidence of active army maneuvers or anything. No foreigner was allowed anywhere near the maneuvers. What you did see was very malnourished soldiers, often who couldn't even scale a telegraph pole on one particular occasion. But it has a good military industrial complex that would produce stuff that the Russians would need, and the North Koreans are quite willing to supply it.